right? But if you're caught up in your feelings and your emotions and stuff like that, you can hear. I remember one time I was listening to. This is when I first started doing comedy years ago. This is like almost 30 years ago when I first started doing comedy. Um, I was with a girl. There was a girl that came with me to this comedy show. This is I don't even think I even did my first set yet. So I made at that point just watching comics. And there was a comic that was no, I think I did start. I was already doing it. There was a comic, Mike Wilmot. He did a joke about Jesus Christ. What was the joke again? I can't remember the bit. Now
I don't think it matters.
the girl I was with got really upset because he was doing a joke about Jesus Christ. From her standpoint, she felt that he was making fun of Jesus. He wasn't making fun of Jesus in the joke. I just can't remember the joke. It's 30 years ago, 29 years ago. I can't remember the joke, right? But he wasn't making fun of Jesus. But the joke was about Jesus. She hated him so much because in her mind, it was sacrilegious. And you can't do that. And I'm like,
I
you didn't
think
listen to the joke. The joke has nothing to do with making fun of Jesus. The joke is about the subject matter is Jesus. Right? But she couldn't get past that with her Christian views and her Christian bias and whatever, whatever. I'm just like, you know what? You're too stupid for me to talk to. I can't talk to you. I can't even wrap my head around it. It's like there's a difference between making fun of Jesus or making light of a situation of something that Jesus has done or whatever. But the joke was more about his disciples, if anything, than Jesus. The joke was on the disciples, right? But she took it in a whole different way because in her mind, you can't tell jokes about that. That's where I say, fuck off.
it's an insecurity. It's an insecurity,
That's
and
not that's not
comedy is the
insecurity.
best
That's
way
not
to do
insecurity. No, that's all
it. Is
different.
it?
That's not insecurity.
It is. It
No, it had nothing
definitely
to do with
is.
insecurity. I know what you're saying in
She's
regards to how it
insecure
could be,
about
but
her faith.
it has
She's
nothing to do with
insecure about
insecurity.
her faith. That's why
People
she's
have
so
rules.
offended.
People have rules, ethical rules in their mind, and some ethical rules are just unrealistic. And if you're a comedian, you should not tell jokes about Jesus. People think that when you're telling a comedian who tells a joke, it's making fun of something. This is what people's perception of comedians are. Comedians are making light of something.
Yeah,
Right? Some comedians
that's
do
how you.
make fun of stuff, right? There's two ways about it. You either make
Yeah,
fun of something or make light of something. You have a better and longer career if you're making light of stuff, right? His joke has nothing to do
how
with
did it do that?
attacking Jesus. He was making fun of the disciples that followed Jesus, but it had nothing to do with Jesus itself. It was just the joke was I can't remember what the joke was because the disciples I can't remember the bit. It doesn't even matter at this point because I don't remember the joke.
It doesn't
Right?
matter.
But the point is,
Man.
she already had a religious bias, and in her
Yeah,
mind, comics make fun of people. That's not
yeah,
100% true. Comics either make fun of people or make light of people's situations,
yeah.
that type of stuff, whatever. So as soon as she heard whatever joke, regardless what the joke was, in her mind, the comic was making fun of Jesus, and you can't make fun of Jesus because he's the son of God, according to them, anyway. Right? It's like I just said, you know what? You didn't even listen to the joke, right?
I don't
Because
think.
emotion is stronger than logic. Your emotion can cloud up all your logic, and you won't see shit if you're caught up in your emotions. All right? Don't sit in a comedy club and get all caught up in your emotions. There are some cases, though, where bad comics may say the wrong thing, and there's a reason for you to be caught up in your emotions. I agree with that, but that wasn't one of the cases. Because if it was one of the cases, you wouldn't get very far telling jokes in a Christian environment. You wouldn't get very far with that. And he's been telling that joke for years. Right? I don't know why people make
Yeah.
all this stuff so complicated when it's not. Right? But if I hear a bad comic and telling a bad joke, you can spot it a mile away. Right? Now, does every comic has to be scrutinized based on the subject matter that they choose to tell jokes under? After a while, it gets ridiculous. At a point, it's necessary, and after that, it just gets ridiculous because after that, it's like, what do you talk about then?
Well, I mean, there's a risk involved, right?
There's a
When you're
risk.
doing it.
There's a risk. But again, I can't control stupid people. If you come to my show stupid, you're gonna leave my show stupid. I'm not gonna make you smarter. All right. It's not my job to well, you can educate in comedy. You can educate people through your humor. You can do that, but it's not an obligation.
Also, like, one of the hardest things to do is to make every single person laugh, which you can't do.
You
So,
can't
like,
do
I
that.
mean,
You can make every single
you can't
person
do
laugh in the
that.
room in a
You
given
can't
night,
do
sure,
that.
but you're not going to make overall. You're not going to make
You have to
everyone
appeal
happy with
to
your
the
humor.
audience.
Not everyone's going to like your humor. You have to learn to, as a comic, you have to learn to accept that,
People are okay with that. Yeah.
right? And why would you want everyone
Sometimes you might get booed.
that can happen?
Yeah, sometimes.
Right?
Actually, that probably happens to every.
No, it doesn't happen to every comic. It doesn't happen to every
But
comic.
yes.
But I don't think a comic should go out of his way to try to get booed. That's different, but it could happen. If you're a comic that challenges the status quo, you have a higher chance of getting booed. That's totally okay, right? But you don't want to be getting booed because you just
But
suck and
that's
you should be
shedding
booed.
light.
You know, you should have
But
won.
that's you shedding light on something.
Yeah, you can be shedding light on something that's uncomfortable for the audience, and the audience says, "Listen, we're calling this cuts right here," and they may respond to that through booing. That's a possibility, right? But if you're challenging the status quo and you're taking chances, whatever, and you got booed, hey, I'm not gonna wrong you for that. You were taking it. You're challenging the audience, and it didn't go your way that night. All right, that happens. But if you're an average regular comic telling jokes about whatever and you're getting booed, it's like, well, maybe you need to find a different career. If you're in
Right.
the beginning stages, that's okay. You're a new comic, you're learning the craft. But or there's other situations where you can get booed. Sometimes you're performing in front of an audience that's just not your audience. And they just don't like you. It doesn't matter how funny you are. They don't like you. Right? Because they'll tell you in comedy that likability is the most important thing. Before humor, we have to like you. For me to laugh at any of your jokes, I have to like you. Right? What if I don't like you? And the whole audience doesn't like you? Things can go terribly wrong. Right? But your job as a comic is, am I likable enough? So people will like my jokes. And you can just even do this with normal people. Do you laugh at jokes that people from people who you don't like? No. Even if it's funny, you find every way to find why it's not funny.
Okay, I have to
You naturally do. That guy ain't shit. Yeah, but he's shit to us. You guys don't know what you're talking about. He ain't shit because you don't like him. Right? It doesn't even have to be humor. It can even be just be intelligence, holding a debate. If you don't like that guy, you choose the side of the other person to show how much you don't like the other guy. Right? This is what humans do when we're biased. Right? So if you have the audience, it's going to be hard to tell humor.
Comedy is a very wit-requiring thing, witty thing. I mean, that's why they call it witty humor, right?
What's witty?
Like, I mean,
witty just means like if you're whatever on the spot, if you can come up with stuff on the spot. You don't have to have that ability as a comedian.
You have to have a lot of empathy and like a lot of consideration and understanding, like what would make people laugh. Why this is like
sure helps.
But it's also like there's like for example, I don't know, like it's like the way you do it, your style, the way you do it, delivery. It has to work. Yeah, delivery. Well, it's an art form, I guess.
Yes, it is an art form. What do you mean you guess? It's one of the hardest art forms out there. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult enough that I don't want to try it. So yeah. Or will I?